is Melissa Ponzio, and I'll be your hostess for the next 30 minutes on Atlanta's newest sports talk show. With me are Jim Feagle and Reynolds. How you doing, guys?
Hey, happy to be here.
Good, good. Tonight's guest is Curt Bennnett, former Atlanta Flame, who is now working with the IHL Knights. And for now, we are going to go and talk some of the weekend sports, and we're going to start it off with basketball. Chicago was hot. They won the first game, 122-89. Michael Jordan scoring 39 points, 35 of them which in the first half. Let's talk about this, guys.
Jim, I tell you what, you really jumped on the bandwagon there, and he really came through for you, not only in this first game, but let's go back to that game against Cleveland. He was the go-to guy. He was unbelievable. And then when you go to game one last night, this guy was incredible. I mean, this is a record that he broke that I think was set in 1962 by Elgin Baylor. And 35 points in the first half, that's just tremendous. And this is a guy that Portland, of course, is not going to ignore. I mean, this is someone that you had several days to prepare for, and here it is. This guy comes out and still is the big difference in the game, like Jim was going to say all along.
Yeah, what can you do? Portland is just probably sitting there thinking, this is worthless. What can we do? This guy's hitting all these three-pointers. I just think that Michael Jordan is, once again, I'll say, he is the key. I felt like I was going off on a giving his laurels in, but he's the focus of this whole thing. I think there was an interesting article in the paper saying Clyde Drexler isn't even in the top 10, and positions 1 through 9 are occupied by Michael Jordan. And I think that first game showed how much truth there is in that article.
Yeah, going back to that game, also I think Portland really wasn't ready for some reason. They had this sagging defense, and they were leaving Michael Jordan on the outside, and he was getting open jump shots that way, and he was making Portland pay. And Portland can't let that happen. They can't let Chicago shoot a high percentage simply because one of Portland's strengths is rebounding, and that's how they got through the season. They are one of the top rebounding clubs, and the rebounds lead to transition baskets. Portland needs to get this game going and force Chicago to make some bad shots. So they weren't ready defensively. I think Adelman needs to do a better job with them. He had several days to prepare.
Do you think these games are going to be any closer, or do you think Chicago's just going to sweep the whole series?
No, they're going to get closer. I mean, this is just the first game. There's just no telling. Portland's just got to forget about this first game and go on to the game this evening. And then that's a very difficult team to be out there in Portland. They are a very strong team at home. So, no, I think this is going to be a good series.
Yeah, I think it'll go 7 games.
I agree. I think it'll go 7.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to the NHL wrap-up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's talk about it, Ty.
Yeah,
you were completely wrong.
At me.
Right.
Jim, you want to get one in first?
No, go.
Well,
I'll let you apologize over national TV.
Well, Pittsburgh showed why they were the cream of the crop, and they won in several different ways. This is a high-powered offensive team that showed that in Game 1. Chicago, I think, lost this game in Game 1. They were ahead 4-1. Pittsburgh came back and won 5-4, and I really think they were down after that. I think the rest of the series that Chicago was just waiting for something wrong to happen, and a lot of wrong things did happen for Chicago.
Okay, I think we have a phone call. Hi, caller, you're on the air.
Good evening. Yeah, comment and a question.
Okay.
Comment first. It seems to me that the NBA is a rough sport, so to speak, in terms of the physicalness of the interaction of the players, and I wonder why. Well, my comment is I think that Michael Jordan is treated with kid gloves by the opposing players. Maybe it's because he's the national franchise or whatever. And that's my comment. Second, my question is why is it that no one appears to be able to guard this guy? I mean, he's not Superman, and it just blows my mind. I played basketball myself in my younger years, and I think that the refs included. It just seems to me that he gets away with murder on the court, and I know he's a great player. I'm not taking anything away from his ability or his talent, but guys get hacked, guys get punched, guys get this and that. Nothing ever happens to Michael Jordan, so to speak, except an occasional incident. And I was wondering if you might comment on that. Thank you.
guys. Thank you
Well,
for calling.
When you look at any professional sport, and I was talking to some of y'all about this earlier, when you have a franchise player, it's just common rule, he's protected. But I think in the NBA, I think that's the case with a lot of players, although he's right. I would say more so with Jordan. I think that any time that he goes in the lane and someone comes around and touches him, he most of the time is going to get the call. So I can agree with that. Why they can't guard him? Well, you've got several NBA coaches out there wondering the same thing. That's a tough question to answer, how you guard a player like that. And not only that, let's remember, it's not just him out there. There's guys out there who can play. There's Paxson, who's a good outside shooter. There's a guy like Pippen who can run the floor. There's Horace Grant, who's a very good power forward. And then there's the old crafty veteran Cartwright. They have some weapons to go with him. And what even makes Jordan more dangerous is he's such a floor leader and a floor general that he finds the open men. He makes the right decisions out there. Yeah, if you could answer that question where how do you stop this guy, I think you ought to apply for an NBA job if you could answer it.
Yeah, I think bringing all sports into things, not just Michael Jordan in basketball. I think there's a number of hockey players that are probably treated with kid gloves also. We were talking earlier, Mario Lemieux. I mean, there's a certain people that the refs probably just want to protect a little bit just for overall the revenues. If these guys get hurt, they might, basketball might lose some money with Michael Jordan. Their ratings might go down if he's hurt. Mario Lemieux gets put out. Hockey might lose some of their ratings. So these guys, they probably do get a little favoritism treatment.
Okay. Yeah. We have another phone call. Hi, caller, you're on the air. Hello? Hello. Okay.
Okay, let's go back to that, Jim. Talking about Lemieux, I mean, after Game 2 in Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Mike Keenan just came out and blatantly was criticizing the NHL for letting Mario Lemieux take these dives whenever someone would come around and try and check them or wrap their stick around them a little bit, which is a common way of checking in hockey, and a lot of players get away with that. But it appears that when Lemieux, when something like that happens to him, he'll take a dive, he'll fall down, penalty gets called. But to his credit, he takes advantage of it.
He's just a super talent.
Okay, let's move on to the French Open.
Well, the French Open, the first thing that came out to me about that was a lot of upsets in the men's. And but I tell you what, that French Open, that's Courier's to win. He is playing so well. He played well against Agassi today. And Andre Agassi, that's an interesting player there. He really hasn't seemed to come through and win the big one. And I sort of had a feeling that Courier was going to have his way with him today.
Which he did.
Yeah, he pretty much had his way today.
Well, let's talk. One thing that has to do with the French Open is how drug testing with John McEnroe, his comment on it. What do you think? McEnroe came out in the paper and said that there needs to be random drug testing, saying that for a while in tennis that steroids have been prevalent. So, as in any other sport. Right. That's a hard call, but it's something that I personally agree with. He had other significant players come out and basically agree with him. Chris Evert came out and mentioned that there was use, and Steffi Graf said that she had played against someone this year who was taking foreign substances. So they feel, the players feel that steroids obviously makes them play better, they play harder for a longer period of time, and they overcome injuries much quicker. Jim?
Yeah, they just gives them a lot more endurance. You have some guys like Connors going out there in his late 30s against, someone, possibly beefed up on steroids. I never really thought about tennis being a steroid sport.
Yeah.
You think football and, maybe weightlifting or something. You don't really think tennis, but, if Ben Johnson with track, a track star does it, it's,
Okay. Now, on to baseball. Let's talk a little bit about the realignment of the divisions.
Well, the realignment of divisions, this is typical baseball, this is typical sports. They're talking about this is an issue of cash which is creating a dispute between the owners. The Braves and the Reds are talked about being moved to the east, and the Cardinals and Cubs to the west. The Cubs, they don't want that move to happen. They're a superstation, and it'll cut back on primetime television. And for a team like Atlanta and Ted Turner, they would love the decision because it would mean more games against Eastern teams, games starting at 7:30, 8 o'clock against teams like New York, Philadelphia, and in pretty big markets.
I don't think Faye Vincent's going to let Chicago put a monkey wrench in the whole machinery. I think he's going to go ahead and make a decision, a quick decision, before they have to get the scheduled deadline.
Well,
I believe that's in July.
Would it be a good move?
Oh yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, Chicago is 1 hour difference than we are. I guess they're on Central Time.
Yeah.
And since we're on Eastern, it's a easy hour difference to make up. You know, sometimes you have Atlanta going out to San Francisco, San Diego. It's a pain for the fans, really, to watch games at 10:30, 10:45 at night.
Okay, we have a phone call now. Hi, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, I just wanted to know if there was any truth to the rumor that Dave Justice could be going to the Toronto Blue Jays for Tom Hankey. And also, who is this gangster girl on the left, and does she have a name and a number?
Well, we'll address the first question. Jim?
I don't think there's any truth to that. Unless you have some inside information with John Sherholtz, I hope the Braves don't make that trade. I think Hankey's probably the third best closer on the Toronto staff. I think Dwayne Ward there is much better, and I think they've got some younger prospects coming up. So I hope that doesn't come through. I think Dave Justice needs to either stay here or he needs to be part of a better trade package for possibly a strong starting shortstop.
Okay. Well, thank you, caller, for calling. And now we are going to turn our attention to a little videotape that we have for you with Danielle Chevalier, who is interviewing about the ticket sales for the IHL. So let's take a look at that, and we'll be back with Curt Bennnett, former Atlanta Flame, and now who is in charge of the IHL Knights.
Hi, I'm Danielle, and I'm here with Jeff Mirander with the IHL Knights. Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Very good.
Good. What exactly are your duties with the Knights?
My responsibilities with the Knights are to worry about the ticket operation, and that encompasses anything from season tickets to 20 game plans to individual game sales or even group sales. In addition to that, I will take the initiative to get involved with the youth hockey groups in the Atlanta area, as well as the adult hockey leagues or street hockey leagues, roller hockey leagues, and also will become involved with different youth groups such as the YMCA and Boy Scouts. So in addition to being in charge of their ticket operations, I do intend to get involved within the community.
How are the ticket sales going so far?
So far, real well. Traditionally, when hockey teams get going, people think, well, the season ends sometime in May or June, and you're off for the summer, and you're vacation and having a good time. It's just the opposite with ticket sales. The summer is our busiest selling season, and then once the actual games start playing, we can ease up a little bit and just let over-the-counter sales go. So ticket sales are going real well right now. We feel that anything that we've got to date, in excess of 900 season tickets, is a good start because we've just really started our sales campaign for the summer. We intend to be the leading city in the IHL in terms of total number of season ticket holders, and having 900 to date and only just beginning our campaign is a great start.
Now you have season tickets available and single tickets, and how much are they?
We've been selling season tickets. They range anywhere from $315 to $635 per seat since last September when we hosted the 2 NHL preseason games. We've just come out with a new brochure entitled Nightmare on Peachtree Street, which would encompass not only the season ticket packages but also the mini game plans. For instance, we've got a 20-game plan that would be opening night plus 20 games of your choice, so we're not trying to predict your schedule or what you can work or what games you can go to. We're leaving the flexibility up to you. That ranges between $200 and $240, and we've also got some smaller fan sampling packages for those that might want to just catch a couple games. We have a select your own 6-pack, which is opening night plus 5 weekend games of your choice, as well as a smaller package called the Hat Trick, which is 2 preseason games plus opening night. So we feel we've got 2 different packages that may meet the fans' needs.
Now, what NHL team are you affiliated with?
We've affiliated this summer with the NHL expansion team, Tampa Bay Lightning. They're very new, and they just started out like us. They'll be starting in October in the NHL. Got a great staff down there, and we felt, geographically speaking, it was a natural to be able to affiliate with them.
When does your season start?
We'll actually begin on October 1st and 3rd. We'll host the Bruins NHL preseason games. On the 1st, we'll play Boston and Philadelphia square off, and then our parent club, Tampa Bay, will be coming in on the 3rd to play the Bruins. Our actual home opener won't be till October 14th. It's tentatively scheduled for us to kick off our inaugural season.
I'd like to thank you for taking the time out. And we're here at the IHL office at the Omni with the Atlanta Knights. Thank you, Jeff.
I'd like to thank you for helping us promote the Knights in our inaugural season, and we're looking forward to exciting season here at the Omni come October.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, that was Danielle Chevalier with a little information about the ticket sales for the IHL. And now we're here with Curt Bennnett, who is the former Atlanta Flame and now who is in charge of the IHL Knights. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks.
In charge of the IHL Knights.
Well, exactly. What exactly is your role with the Knights?
Well, right now, what I'm doing mostly is trying to relate to the community what the IHL is.
Okay.
Most NHL players had played in this league. It's called the International Hockey League, either here or the American League. It's where they grow. Players come out of college or junior A or from Europe. They need it's a maturation process where they have to be placed somewhere where they can get playing time. So we're going to be aligned with the Tampa Lightning, which is a new team in the NHL next year. Okay. And the players that they want to develop will be housed here. So we will see some of the players going up and down. I don't know how much the first year. Tampa will be an expansion year. I think people have the idea that maybe because it's an expansion team, we might not get good players, but it's actually quite the opposite. Expansion teams get first crack at some of the better players. And a good instance is this year, San Jose Sharks, who are an expansion team, their affiliate Kansas City won the league. So they should see some good hockey.
Well, how would you say is it about the equivalent of AAA baseball? Usually the young prospects that are about to make the major league club, maybe with a few veterans who are on their way out. I mean, what's the mix here?
That's what is basically more so now on youth. I think the average age is 24. I know when I came up, it was called the Central Hockey League. I played in Kansas City, and we had a few vets. The whole goal, the whole purpose of these teams is to develop players, and if they're not going to make it after 2 or 3 years, they'll go with some younger players. So it's a very fast league, and I know after playing, I played in both leagues, and people have the idea that you go down from the minors, from the majors to the minors, that you're going to walk over, and it's not true. It's very difficult, and it's very competitive.
Curt, with some of the political movements that have been happening over in Europe and in the Soviet Union, the talent may be expanding a little bit. Did you want to comment on that, and would that affect the IHL?
Well, definitely. I think both the leagues, the American Hockey League, which is primarily the Northeast, and our league, are benefiting by the almost doubling of the amount of talent pool. Hockey is probably the #1 sport in Russia, and they have tremendous hockey. They won the Olympics this year. And now a lot of those players are freed up. Czechs a lot freer to get. We've always gotten some Finns and Swedes, but now we're getting a lot more. And you're going to see, I don't know if anyone went to the IHL All-Star game this year. We had a couple Russians and a couple foreigners playing in that game. And you're going to see a lot more. The level of hockey, as I'm watching it, looks very good. And I'm particularly impressed. I've watched the playoffs. I have a satellite dish. It's hard to get hockey in Atlanta.
Right.
I have a satellite dish, but I've watched a lot of the games, and I'm very impressed with the caliber of hockey now.
With this infusion of European talent, how many teams do you think the NHL can hold? Is there enough room for, say, Atlanta at some point having an NHL franchise, either a new one or one maybe coming from another organization?
Yeah, my feeling is that I think our whole goal is to get an NHL team. And I played on an NHL team when I was here in Atlanta. I always thought Atlanta was a great hockey town. And if you interviewed any other Atlanta Flame and told them, did you like playing in Atlanta, they said, yeah, and it was a great town. And it was also a great town to come to for visiting teams. And I think our whole goal is to get back there. And as far as having more, sure, I think basketball is expanding, baseball, we're all expanding. There is the difference in talent on a team to be on the top team and below is very, very small.
Okay, I think we have a phone call. Hi, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, I've got a quick question for Curt.
Okay.
With people in and around this area not being accustomed to watching hockey,
how does he plan on bringing attention to the sport so the fans will become attracted to the sport? And number two, is that Miss or Mrs. Ponzio?
That's not my question.
No, the question is.
Okay, well, I understand the hockey question. The other question, I guess,
Thank you,
inside
caller.
joke. What we, Atlanta, people don't realize it was a good hockey town. We averaged, over the 8 years I was here, 13,000 people at the games. People would come to me and say, too bad, I'm in commercial real estate now and I'll meet businesses, new people, and say, geez, too bad nobody came to your games. And that wasn't the case. And we had great following. As far as educating the people, sure, there's a lot of Southerners who hadn't seen hockey, but hockey's a game that sells itself. You don't have to put on hype or anything else. Once people get exposed to it and see it, especially in person, it's a very difficult game to watch on TV. That's one of the problems hockey has in generating a lot of income, because that's where a lot of income comes from. But as far as being in person, it's a world game. If you watch the Olympics, all the countries that participate are very much involved in hockey and love hockey, and it's watched worldwide. So I think as far as educating the Atlanta people, we already have a lot of educated hockey fans here, and I'm sure they'll help educate those that not.
Although I have seen the billboards, Nightmare on Peachtree Street, with the number and the little goalie, which is kind of cute. But when did the idea of bringing back a hockey team to Atlanta come about? How did that idea come?
Well, when I finished with the Flames in '80, that's when they got moved. I went to Japan, played hockey in Japan for a couple of years, the player coach, which is interesting. Japan has hockey. Nihongo dekimasu ka? Kochi so sama deshita. Anyway, they're very polite and very good hockey, and it just underlined the fact hockey's played all over. Came back to Atlanta, and it was kind of sad. I remember going to a Hawks game and looking at the rink and thinking, God, hockey is no longer here. It's really strange. And I never thought we'd get hockey back, at least not for a while. And we talked about it. There was a developer by the name of Ron Terwilliger who owned the Atlanta TAC, the indoor soccer team we had here in Atlanta last year, in Kansas City. He and I were scuba diving one time, and he said, I'd like to buy a hockey team. And I thought this was really interesting. I want to get a hockey team too. So we kind of pursued it. We got involved with a guy named Dave Berkman, who's a very prominent businessman here, and the two, we pursued the NHL idea. We wanted an NHL team. Unfortunately, when they came out, they wanted $50 million, and we could not make it economically feasible using the Army to do this, but we still wanted hockey. I mean, I kind of miss hockey. Richard Adler, who's done the promotions for the exhibition games the past 3 years, got together with Dave, said, let's do some kind of hockey. We looked at two leagues, the East Coast Hockey League. It's another league below the IHL and the IHL. The advantage of the IHL is that we're that much closer to an NHL team if we do well. And I think that's our whole goal. And I think ultimately we'll end up probably building another arena, and which you have to do nowadays in professional sports in order to generate the income from the concessions and parking and the different things, revenues involved with the sport. You kind of have to almost own the rink, and we would only be leasing the Army.
Curt, talking about a new rink, what part of the city would y'all put that?
Well,
now we're speculating, of course.
I would guess that if we did, it would probably be up the I-400 corridor, be the most opportune place, because you have Cobb and you have Fulton, where primarily most of our hockey audience is. But I'm not sure. I've never really disliked the Army. I mean, we drew well. People say if you had it somewhere else, you draw better, but we did draw well. I don't know how much more people you can put in a facility. I think there are other things we've got to do as far as generating revenue, and one of them, as I mentioned, they have skyboxes now.
What's a skybox?
A skybox in most baseball or basketball and hockey facilities are these corporate boxes that people will pay quite a bit of money to entertain clients, and that's a good source of revenue. Around the boards, you'll see in hockey now they have advertisement. They didn't have that when I played. Europeans have always done that.
Is this for the NHL or the IHL?
Well, both.
Both. Okay.
You need to generate income, and the athlete's getting paid so much, you got to afford to pay him. I don't know how baseball does it, but I'm sure it's primarily a lot of TV revenue. And since we don't have a large TV audience to watch hockey, we've got to find other ways.
Curt, speaking of TV and money, has there been any progress made on getting a television contract with the Atlanta Knights?
I'm not sure, and Jeff may have commented, I didn't hear his interview, that we may get a few games on. We hope to get people watching other cities in the league, like Phoenix, San Diego, Kansas City, so that rivalries exist. People like hockey because they have rivalries. We'll have run-ins with other teams, and grudge matches, and I think people really at least enjoy the Atlanta Flames, Philadelphia Flyers matches.
Where's the nearest team? Where would their nearest competition be at this point?
Right now, I think Kansas City's about that closest. We're pretty far. This league is a travel. We won't be flying everywhere. But usually grudge matches occur because of the teams, not always because of the location. Boston and Philly were our biggest grudge matches when I played for Atlanta.
How about Coach Ubriaco? What style of player is he looking for?
Well, Gene, he coached the Pittsburgh Penguins back with Mario Lemieux, and that was the year Lemieux scored 199 points.
Wow.
It was he's dealt with some very talented players. He's also coached the Italian national team, which he did in the Olympics recently. So he's had exposure to Europeans. So I think he'll have a mixture of a lot of talented players, more precise and disciplined type players. I know we're promoting a lot. You see, hockey's always thought of to be really violent, and I know a lot of the violence is being portrayed. But hockey is also a very beautiful game. It's very similar to soccer. The techniques are very similar, and even now we play old timers hockey, and there's no contact, but it's still a lot of fun. You don't have to go out and just beat someone up to feel good.
How's hockey changed in like the last 10 or 15 years since you were in your heyday, making the all-star team in the mid-'70s?
Well, I think from watching it, I think the talent level's higher. Like I say, there's more of a talent pool to grab on now. You've got Russians and Czechs, and I think even the Americans. Americans have grown quite a bit. Ever since 1980 Olympics, when America became cognizant that we had a hockey program, we've really developed a lot of good Americans. Jeremy Roenick, who plays for Chicago, who's a bona fide superstar in the NHL, is an American. And back in my day, that wasn't the case.
Curt, there seems to be a game within a game when one team is in the offensive end, and what they'll sometimes do is stick a big player, or what people term as a goon, in front of the goalie. And there seems to be a lot of action in front. You'll see a goalie hacking away a player like Ron Hextall or Bill Smith. Do you have any stories to comment on with any activity like that when you played with the Flames or in the NHL?
Well, it's interesting. I think the most interesting story that I tell when I speak a lot to different groups is that hockey came to Atlanta officially when we played St. Louis, and Phil Muir hit this guy, Steve Durbano, in the head and cut him badly. He went off and got stitched, came back, got in a brawl. We fought for about 20 minutes, both teams, and it was terrible. It was violence. Talking about it, terrible. Well, the next 13 games were sold out. And that was the first year.
That's great.
They don't like violence.
Well, Curt, I'd really like to thank you for coming here tonight, and Jim and Ty, as always. Next week, our guest will be Ted Wilkes, director of the Softball Country Club, and I would like to thank our sponsors, the Atlanta Voice and Palestra Sporting Goods, and come and join us next Friday at 8:30, and we'll see you then. Thanks a lot. So.
Appreciate you coming
I'm
out.
as fast as I could with you. I really shortened that story.